I still remember that crisp morning just 14 days before our wedding day. The venue was booked. My family was flying in from across the country, and I was finalizing details with our caterer when my phone buzzed. A text from Jessica that read, "Need some space to think about us." My stomach dropped. 2 years of building a life together, thousands of dollars invested, countless promises made. When I called her, my heart raced as the phone went straight to voicemail. As I share how my world collapsed 2 weeks before my wedding day, let me know where you are watching from and subscribe if you have ever had that gut feeling something was not right in your relationship. Summer in Seattle has always been magical, with perfect temperatures and breathtaking mountain views. That July afternoon in 2022 at my buddy Sam's barbecue was no different. I was manning the grill when Sam introduced me to Jessica, his coworker from the hospital. She had just moved to the area after completing her pediatric nursing residency in Chicago. The first thing I noticed was her infectious laugh that seemed to light up the entire backyard. Her dark curly hair framed an expressive face that radiated intelligence and warmth. When she mentioned her passion for jazz, I took a chance and asked her to join me at Blue Note, a local jazz club, the following weekend. To my surprise, she agreed immediately. That first date was effortless. We talked for hours about everything from our childhood dreams to our favorite travel destinations. By the end of the night, as I walked her to her car, there was an undeniable connection between us. Our relationship progressed naturally after that. Weekends were filled with hiking trips to Mount Rainier, exploring local wineries and quiet evenings cooking together. After 4 months, I introduced her to my parents during their visit from Florida. They adored her immediately, especially when she discussed her work with sick children. My dad, normally reserved with my girlfriends, pulled me aside to say, "This one is special, Alfredo. Do not let her go." Jessica introduced me to her family during Thanksgiving. Her parents lived in Portland, just a 3-hour drive away. Their warm welcome made me feel like I had been part of their family for years. Her younger brother Travis and I bonded over our shared love for vintage motorcycles. 8 months into our relationship, we decided to move in together. My lease was ending and her apartment was too small for both of us, so we found a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment overlooking Lake Union. Merging our lives felt right, like completing a puzzle. We established routines, divided household responsibilities, and spent evenings planning our future together. I proposed on our 1-year anniversary during a hike to Eagle Cliff, a scenic lookout point where we had our 3rd date. I had coordinated with both our families to be waiting at the summit with champagne. When Jessica saw everyone gathered there, as I dropped to one knee, her joyful tears answered my question before she could say yes. The wedding planning began almost immediately. Jessica had always dreamed of an autumn wedding, so we set the date for September 28th, giving us just over a year to prepare. She threw herself into every detail, from flowers to table settings. We secured a gorgeous vineyard venue outside the city, booked a band that specialized in our favorite music, and selected a menu that represented both our cultural backgrounds. Throughout all this happiness, Jessica maintained close connections with her college friends. She often spoke about her years at University of Washington, the adventures with her sorority sisters, and the tight-knit group that had stayed in touch despite living across different states. I admired her loyalty to these friendships, though I noticed she occasionally became guarded when discussing certain aspects of her college years. Looking back, there were subtle warning signs I chose to ignore. Sometimes Jessica would turn her phone face down when I entered the room or step outside to take certain calls. When I would ask casually about her day, some stories seemed to have missing pieces. She occasionally mentioned an ex-boyfriend named Kyle, who had apparently been an important part of her college experience, but would quickly change the subject if I asked questions. 3 months before our wedding, Jessica introduced me to Megan, her maid of honor, who had flown in from Denver to help with wedding preparations. Megan was loud, opinionated, and seemed to share numerous inside jokes with Jessica that excluded everyone else. During dinner, Megan kept referencing their college days and the crazy times they had with people I had never heard Jessica mention. "Remember that spring break in Cabo with Kyle and the guys?" Megan had asked with a knowing smile. Jessica had quickly changed the subject, shooting Megan a look I could not quite interpret. As the wedding approached, Jessica and Megan spent hours discussing the bachelorette party plans. I assumed it would be the typical girls' weekend at a spa or beach destination. Little did I know that this event would change the course of our lives forever. With just 7 weeks until our wedding day, the preparations intensified. We finalized deposits with vendors, selected the perfect cake flavor after multiple tastings, and I went for my final suit fitting. Our shared calendar was packed with appointments and deadlines. Despite the stress, I was excited to start our married life together. However, something began to shift in Jessica. She picked up extra night shifts at the hospital, claiming they needed the coverage and the extra money would help with wedding expenses. When she was home, she seemed distracted, often scrolling through her phone with a slight smile I had not seen before. Our intimate moments became less frequent, and when I tried to kiss her goodbye in the mornings, she would turn her head so my lips landed on her cheek instead. One Tuesday evening as we were having dinner, Jessica casually mentioned that her college friend Brooke was hosting a co-ed bachelor party at her lake house in eastern Washington. It is going to be next weekend. Thursday through Sunday, she announced, not looking up from her pasta. Most of the old crew will be there. Megan is flying in early. 4 days, that seems long for a bachelor party, I replied, feeling a twinge of unease. And co-ed. That is not the usual tradition. Jessica shrugged. Brooke and her fiancé want to celebrate together with all our college friends. It is their thing. Will I know anyone there? I asked. Jessica hesitated before answering. You have not met most of them, and it is really meant to be a reunion of our old university group. Plus, you have that work conference that weekend. Remember, I did have a 2-day conference, but it ended Friday afternoon. I could join you Friday evening, I suggested. The lake house is pretty remote, and Brooke has limited space. Jessica replied quickly. It would be complicated to coordinate. Something in her tone made me press further. Who exactly will be there? After naming several people I had never met, she added casually. And Kyle will probably drop by. He lives near the lake now. My stomach tightened. Kyle, the ex-boyfriend, she rarely discussed, but who appeared in so many of her college stories. Kyle, your ex, the one you dated for 3 years. We dated 7 years ago in college, Alfredo. It is nothing, she said with an edge to her voice. Everyone has stayed friends. It is not a big deal. That night led to our first serious argument about appropriate boundaries in a relationship. I explained that while I trusted her, attending a weekend party with an ex-boyfriend, just weeks before our wedding, made me uncomfortable. Jessica accused me of being controlling and not trusting her judgment. These are my oldest friends. They are coming to our wedding. Do you expect me to cut them out of my life because you feel insecure? She demanded. The argument ended unresolved, with Jessica sleeping in the spare bedroom. The next day I called my best man, Tony, to discuss my concerns. Am I overreacting? I asked him. Trust your gut, man, Tony replied after a thoughtful pause. Something feels off if she is this defensive about it. In the weeks leading up to the bachelor party, Jessica made other changes that amplified my unease. She bought several new outfits I had never seen her wear before, styles that were different from her usual preferences. She changed her hairstyle, adding highlights, and cutting several inches off the length I had always admired. She also started going to the gym every morning before work, something she had never prioritized before. 3 days before the scheduled bachelor party weekend, I accidentally saw a text notification on her phone while she was in the shower. It was from Megan. Just keep your options open this weekend. No decisions needed until after. When Jessica emerged from the bathroom, I confronted her about the message. What options is Megan talking about? What decisions? Her face flushed with anger. You read my texts. Are you spying on me now? It popped up on your screen. What is going on, Jessica? Are you having doubts about us? About the wedding? Megan was talking about wedding shoes, she snapped unconvincingly. And even if she was not, I am allowed to have private conversations with my friends. The argument escalated quickly. Jessica accused me of suffocating her, of trying to control her friendships, of never giving her space to be herself. Maybe we need to postpone the wedding if you do not trust me, she threatened. Shocked by her suggestion and afraid of losing her, I backed down. The morning she left for the bachelor party, I drove her to the airport in strained silence. As she got out of the car, she finally softened. I love you, Alfredo. We will talk properly when I get back on Sunday. This is just pre-wedding stress, affecting both of us. I watched her walk into the terminal, a nagging feeling in my gut, telling me something was very wrong. I had no idea that would be the last real conversation we would have as an engaged couple. The first day of Jessica's bachelor party weekend, our communication was sparse but existed. She texted when she arrived at the lake house and sent a group photo with several people I did not recognize standing on a dock. I noticed Kyle in the background, tall, with the same dark beard he had in the few college photos Jessica had shown me, having fun catching up with everyone. "Miss you?" her caption read, though something about it felt performative. I replied with a supportive message pushing down my anxiety. That night, her responses to my texts became increasingly delayed and brief. The second day brought almost no communication. My good morning text received a one-word reply hours later. My call went to voicemail. I saw photos posted on social media by Megan showing the group playing drinking games and boating on the lake. Jessica appeared in a few images, always somehow near Kyle. By the third day, Saturday, there was complete silence from Jessica. My calls went straight to voicemail, as if her phone was turned off. None of my messages received responses. I scrolled through social media, obsessively finding party photos without Jessica in them. Where had she gone? As Sunday arrived with still no word, panic set in. I called Megan, who answered with obvious hesitation in her voice. "Oh, hi, Alfredo. Everything okay?" "No, everything is not okay." "Where is Jessica?" "She has not responded to me in 2 days." Megan's response was carefully evasive. She had some stuff to figure out. "I am sure she will call you when she is ready." "What stuff? Is she safe?" "Is she still at the lake house?" "She is safe, but no, she is not at the lake house anymore." That is really all I should say. After hanging up, I called our mutual friend Daniel, who had briefly stopped by the lake house on Friday for a few hours. His uncomfortable silence told me something was terribly wrong before he even spoke. "Man, I do not want to be in the middle of this," Daniel began. "But you deserve to know. I saw Jessica leaving the party with Kyle Friday night. They were pretty close, if you know what I mean. Taking his car with overnight bags. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I thanked Daniel for his honesty and immediately drove the 3 hours to the lake house, needing to see for myself. When I arrived, only a few people remained cleaning up from the weekend. Megan looked shocked to see me. "Where did she go with Kyle?" I demanded. Megan finally admitted. They went to his cabin further up the lake. "Alfredo, I am sorry, but Jessica has had feelings for Kyle since they reconnected at Brooke's engagement party last year. They have been talking a lot." The next week was a blur of unanswered calls, texts, and emails. I fluctuated between rage, heartbreak, and desperate hope that there was an explanation. Jessica's mother called me confused about some wedding preparations and mentioning she had not been able to reach her daughter either. "Is everything all right?" "Jessica always calls me on Sundays," she said, concern evident in her voice. Not wanting to alarm her without knowing the full situation, I made excuses about Jessica working extra shifts. The conversation left me feeling even more isolated in my growing nightmare. Exactly 1 week after she had left for the bachelor party, I returned home from work to find Jessica's engagement ring on our bathroom counter. Beneath it was a note with just 5 words, "I cannot do this. Sorry." The humiliation of canceling our wedding arrangements was almost as painful as the betrayal itself. Each call to vendors, family members, and friends forced me to repeat the devastating news. The venue refused to refund our $15,000 deposit. The custom invitations we had mailed just days earlier were now being received by guests who would need to be contacted. My parents had already purchased non-refundable flights. One night, in a moment of rage and grief, I destroyed the wedding planning folder Jessica had meticulously created. Seeing her handwriting on the seating charts and song requests was too painful a reminder of the future we had planned together. 13 days after Jessica disappeared from the bachelor party, I discovered she had changed her relationship status on social media. In a relationship with Kyle Anderson, appeared alongside a photo of them at what appeared to be his cabin. The date stamp indicated the change had been made the very Sunday she was supposed to return to me. Through mutual friends, I gradually learned more painful details. Jessica and Kyle had apparently been in contact for months, ever since they reconnected at Brooke's engagement party. What Jessica had described to me as occasional friendly texts was actually an ongoing emotional affair. Kyle had recently ended a long-term relationship himself and had reached out to Jessica for support. As I pieced together the timeline, I realized Jessica had been actively planning our wedding while simultaneously rekindling her relationship with Kyle. The financial toll was substantial, with nearly $15,000 lost in non-refundable deposits. The emotional cost was immeasurable. 2 weeks after she left, Jessica finally called. Seeing her name on my phone screen sent a wave of nausea through me. I answered, determined to maintain my dignity. "Alfredo, I need to come by the apartment to get my things," she said, her voice surprisingly casual, as if she had just been away on a normal trip. "When did you plan to tell me the wedding was off?" I asked, my voice shaking despite my best efforts. "Or were you going to ghost me until the actual day? I am sorry things ended this way," she replied, not actually answering my question. I realized I never fully got over Kyle. When we reconnected, all those feelings came back. "I did not plan for this to happen. You could have talked to me before humiliating me in front of everyone we know," I said. "We were going to build a life together, Jessica. I knew you would try to convince me to stay," she responded. "And I might have agreed because I do care about you, but that would not have been fair to either of us." The conversation left me feeling hollow. Jessica had made her choice, and I was left to deal with the aftermath alone. After days of barely functioning, sleeping on Tony's couch because I could not face our empty apartment, I reached a turning point. I was sitting in my car outside our favorite coffee shop when a song came on the radio, one Jessica and I had danced to at a friend's wedding. Instead of changing the station, I let myself feel the full weight of the pain, allowing the tears to come freely for the first time. When the song ended, something shifted inside me. I refused to remain a victim of Jessica's selfish choices. I deserved better than becoming a bitter, angry person nursing wounds inflicted by someone who clearly did not value our relationship. That afternoon, I called Jessica's parents. They deserved to know the truth, not whatever version Jessica might have told them. The conversation was difficult but necessary. "We always thought of you as a son," her mother said, crying. "I am so sorry, Alfredo. This is not how we raised her to handle problems." Next, I confronted the friends who had known about Jessica and Kyle but had said nothing. Some offered genuine apologies. Others made excuses about not wanting to get involved. I made careful note of who showed true remorse and who revealed themselves as untrustworthy. I contacted a lawyer about the apartment lease, which thankfully was in my name, only since Jessica had credit issues when we moved in. The lawyer confirmed I had the right to change the locks as long as I provided reasonable access for Jessica to collect her belongings. The locksmith came that same day. There was something empowering about hearing the new tumblers click into place, a tangible symbol of taking control back. I then methodically packed Jessica's belongings, being careful not to damage anything despite my lingering anger. I photographed each box's contents, as the lawyer had suggested, creating an inventory to prevent later claims of missing items. When Jessica finally called demanding immediate access to the apartment, I remained calm and firm. "Your things are packed. We can meet at the coffee shop on Pike Street tomorrow at noon. I will bring the boxes to my car, and you can transfer them to yours. Tony will be there as a neutral witness. You packed my things. You had no right," Jessica protested. "Actually, I did. The lease is in my name only, and you abandoned the property without notice." My lawyer confirmed, "This is a reasonable accommodation given the circumstances." Her stunned silence was the first indication she was beginning to understand the consequences of her actions. At our meeting the next day, Jessica arrived with Kyle waiting in a car across the street. Seeing him in person, knowing he was the reason my life had been upended, tested my resolve to remain dignified. Jessica attempted several emotional tactics during our interaction. First anger, then tears, and finally nostalgia. "Remember our trip to Vancouver last winter? How happy we were. We could still try to work through this, Alfredo. I made a mistake." I looked at her directly. "No, Jessica. You made a choice. Multiple choices over multiple months. You chose to lie instead of being honest about your feelings. You chose to humiliate me instead of respecting our 2 years together. Most importantly, you chose Kyle, and now you need to live with that decision. As I walked away, leaving her with her boxes on the sidewalk, I felt a weight lifting. I had stood my ground, maintained my dignity, and taken the first real step toward healing. My support system proved invaluable during this time. My sister flew in from Miami to stay with me for a week, cooking my favorite childhood meals and forcing me out of the apartment for daily walks. My colleagues covered my projects when concentration failed me. Even my normally stoic father called daily just to check in. The most surprising source of support came from Jessica's brother Travis, who contacted me to apologize for his sister's behavior. The family is pretty torn up about this. What she did does not reflect our values at all. 2 months after the canceled wedding date, I made a decision that shocked everyone, but felt absolutely right to me. I took our planned honeymoon trip to Portugal alone. The tickets were non-refundable anyway, and something about traveling to a place where no one knew my story felt healing. Walking the streets of Lisbon, hiking coastal trails, and sitting in small cafes with a journal, I began to redefine my future without Jessica. The first 6 months after Jessica left were undeniably difficult. I struggled with trust issues, questioning my judgment, and replaying our relationship looking for signs I had missed. Some days simple tasks like grocery shopping would become overwhelming when I would see items Jessica used to enjoy or couples shopping together. Therapy became my lifeline. My therapist helped me understand that, while the pain was real, I could choose whether to let it define me. "You are experiencing the appropriate emotional response to betrayal," she would remind me. "Feel it, acknowledge it, but know that it will not always be this intense." I gradually reconnected with hobbies I had neglected during my relationship with Jessica. My acoustic guitar, which had gathered dust in the closet, became a nightly companion. I joined a community basketball league, finding that physical exertion helped quiet the mental chaos. I volunteered at a local literacy program, finding purpose in helping others while taking the focus off my own problems. At the 6-month mark, a coworker convinced me to try a casual date, just coffee with a friend of hers. The conversation was pleasant, but unremarkable. What was remarkable was realizing I had gone 2 hours without thinking about Jessica once. It was a small victory, but significant. Around this time, I learned through mutual friends that Jessica and Kyle's relationship had imploded spectacularly. Apparently, the fantasy of reconnecting with a college flame did not match the reality of building a life together. Kyle, who had always been non-committal during their college years, had not changed as much as Jessica had hoped. Within 3 months, they were fighting constantly about the same issues that had caused their original breakup. Jessica began reaching out through intermediaries, first asking casual questions about how I was doing, then becoming more direct about wanting to talk. I maintained a clear boundary, no second chances. The trust was irreparably broken. 1 year after what would have been our wedding day, I unexpectedly ran into Jessica at the grocery store. She looked different, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. For a moment, neither of us spoke, frozen in the produce section between the apples and oranges. "You look well," she finally said, her voice soft. "Thank you." "I am doing well," I replied, surprised to find it was actually true. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," Jessica continued. "I know it is too late, but I am truly sorry, Alfredo. I was confused and scared of commitment, and I hurt the best person I have ever known. A year earlier, those words might have cracked my resolve. Now they simply confirmed I had made the right choice in moving forward. I accept your apology, Jessica. I hope you find what you are looking for," I said sincerely before continuing with my shopping. That brief encounter provided unexpected closure. Jessica had been right about one thing, though, not in the way she intended. If we had married, I would have committed myself to someone who was capable of profound dishonesty and selfishness. Her leaving, as painful as it was, had freed me from what would likely have been an unhappy marriage. Shortly afterward, I accepted a promotion that required relocating to Chicago. The fresh start in a new city accelerated my healing process. I made new friends who knew me only as I was, now not as half of a failed engagement. I bought my first home, a small but charming townhouse that reflected my tastes alone. 18 months after Jessica left, I met Alicia at a charity event for the hospital, where I was now working in medical equipment sales. Our connection was different from what I had experienced with Jessica, less dramatic but deeper and more authentic. Alicia communicated openly respected boundaries and showed consistency between her words and actions. After 6 months of dating, I told Alicia the full story of my canceled wedding. Her response revealed her character. "Thank you for trusting me with that," she said. "It helps me understand what you have been through and how we can build something honest together." Building a relationship with Alicia taught me how different healthy love feels from the turbulent attachment I had mistaken for passion with Jessica. Real love, I learned, does not create constant anxiety or doubt. It provides a secure foundation from which both people can grow. Now, 2 years after Jessica ghosted me 2 weeks before our wedding, I can honestly say I am grateful for the painful lesson. I learned to trust my instincts about red flags in relationships. I discovered my own resilience and capacity for growth. Most importantly, I found that self-respect must be the foundation for any healthy relationship. If there is one message I would share from my experience, it is this. When someone shows you who they truly are through their actions, believe them the first time. No amount of history, chemistry, or potential can overcome fundamental dishonesty and disrespect. And sometimes losing what you thought you wanted leads you exactly to what you truly need. So let me ask you, have you ever ignored relationship red flags that later proved to be warning signs? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life lessons. Your support means the world to me, and I hope by sharing these difficult moments, we can all learn to value ourselves enough to accept only the love we truly deserve. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the hardest endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings.